This parent and student stay up all night and all day on October 1st. To them, October 1st is that day that saves or breaks their bank account. If you wonder why your child isn't getting enough free money for school, or you would like to know what to do to maximize free money from financial aid for your child, stay tuned. Hi teasers, my name is Linda, your money teaser. Here, I give money teasers on personal finances so that you and I can arouse our dreams. Today, I will cover FAFSA and financial aid in the United States. And by the end of this video, you will know how to maximize getting free money for your education or your child's education. But first, if you are new here, please make sure to subscribe to my channel and turn on the notification so that you won't miss out on any video I publish. Let's get started. October 1st is an important date for students and parents all over the United States. As a matter of fact, October 1st is one of those days that you should always remember. Why? Because this day can literally save or break your bank account if you are an undergraduate student or if you are a parent of a child in college or about to get in college. You and I know how expensive college can be in the United States. If you have no idea how financial aid works in this country, you might end up piling up debt or witnessing your child racking up debt in the name of student loans. But if you understand the tricks of FAFSA, you will get the most free money out of it. If you are a senior in high school or a college student, if you are a parent of a child in 12th grade, or if you are somebody preparing for GED, this video is for you. Make sure to grab a pen and a piece of paper as I will give you information on how to maximize free money for college. Also, I expect this video to run a little long because I want to make sure I give you all the information now so that you can be ready to apply for your FAFSA on October 1st. Make sure to watch this video till the very end without skipping any of it, because in this video, I will define FAFSA and the reasons why October 1st is the day you should not miss. I will also talk about who is eligible for FAFSA. I will talk about the FAFSA application process and what to expect out of it. I will conclude with FAFSA application tips and common mistakes to avoid. As a student in the United States, the government will give you an opportunity to go to college if you are eligible for financial aid. This financial opportunity comes in three ways. The first way is free money, which you can get in the form of grants. The second way is through work study. Here, you work in your school for a paycheck in return. The third way is through federal student loan, which are usually repaid with interest in the future. Please keep in mind that you can also get private student loan. In this case, they are awarded by private institutions, not the government. In order to be considered or receive any financial aid from the government, you have to first submit a FAFSA application. FAFSA stands for Free Application for Federal Student Aid. As the name says, FAFSA is a free application. It is the application that both the student and the parent, in some cases, must fill out in order to be considered for financial aid. The information you provide in your FAFSA represents a snapshot of your family's finances and are used to determine the student's eligibility for federal financial aid. Hence, FAFSA is the key to unlock money that will help pay for your education or your child's education. When should you apply for FAFSA? The application for FAFSA usually opens on October 1st at midnight Central Time. The application open date is usually for the following academic year. For example, we are in September of 2021 at the time of this video. The application date of October 1st, 2021 is for the academic year 2022-2023. Hence, if you are currently in college and will be returning next year to school, it concerns you. Also, it concerns seniors in high school that will be attending college next year in the fall of 2022. For the current academic year, which at the time of this video is 2021-2022, the FAFSA application opened on October 1st of 2020 and will close on June 30th of 2022 at 11:59 p.m. Central Time. Meaning, if you are in college right now and have not yet applied for FAFSA, you can still do it. But you must understand that financial aid is awarded on the first come, first served basis. In other words, the early bird gets the worm. This is where a lot of people miss it and wonder why they didn't get much money or any. The earlier you file for your FAFSA, the most free money you will get out of it. That's why you have to be ready to submit your application on October 1st of every year. One of the top secrets of getting the most free money for financial aid is filing your FAFSA as soon as the application opens. This I cannot stress enough. But before you start getting ready to file your FAFSA on October 1st, let's see if you or your child is eligible. To be eligible for financial aid, you must be a U.S. citizen. If you are not a U.S. citizen, you must be an eligible non-U.S. citizen, for example, a permanent resident. You should also have a valid social security number. You must also be currently enrolled in college or in a career school, and you must be in good standing. To be in good standing, you must be making a satisfactory academic process, which consists of maintaining a minimum GPA of 2.0. You must also receive a certain percentage of attended credits because you cannot receive financial aid for a course you did not attend. And you must be on track to complete your degree within a specified time frame. The maximum time frame is usually 6 years for a 4-year degree and 3 years for a 2-year degree. You must have a high school diploma or GED, and you must be accepted as a student in an eligible degree or certificate program. If you are a male between the age of 18 and 25, you must be registered for selective services if you are not currently on active duty in U.S. Armed Forces. If you meet the eligibility for FAFSA, you can now proceed onto the application process. But before you start the application process, I suggest you find out if you or your child is considered dependent or independent for FAFSA. This is a very crucial step because your status will determine whose information to include on your FAFSA application. For example, if you are a dependent student, you will report your information along with your parents' information. And if you are an independent student and married, you will report your information as well as your spouse's information. But if you are an independent student and single, you will report your information only. Keep in mind, FAFSA has a different way to determine who is dependent and who is not. Let's take a quick look into it. In order to find out if you or your child is dependent or independent for FAFSA, FAFSA will ask your student a series of questions on the application form. And if the student answers yes to at least one of those questions, then the student will be considered independent for FAFSA. These questions are related to the age of the student. If he or she 24 years old or older. The student's marital status. Is he or she married as of the day of the application? The level of education of the student. Is he or she enrolled in a graduate program, for example, in a master's program or in a doctorate program? Is the student a veteran or an active duty member of the U.S. Air Force? Does the student have children or dependents that will receive more than half of the support from the student? Is the student considered an emancipated minor? Keep in mind, this status has to be ordered by the court. Were the student's parent deceased since the age of 13? And is the student in foster care? Is the student homeless? If the student, not the parent, answers yes to one or more of these questions, then he or she is considered independent for FAFSA. As an independent student, your parents don't need to be part of your FAFSA. However, you will have to provide your spouse's information if you are married. But if it turns out that you are considered as an independent student, then your parent must fill out your FAFSA application as well. Because in the eyes of the government, parents are responsible for their children's education. A critical question to ask in this case is, which of your parents should fill and sign your FAFSA application? Let's discuss that next. If your parents are still married, then both parents would provide their information on your FAFSA application. If your legal parent is either widowed or never married, then the one parent would provide his or her information. If your parents are divorced or separated and they don't live together, then the parent you lived with the longest over the last 12 months will provide his information along with the information of your step-parent if that parent remarried. If your parents are divorced or separated and they don't live together, then the parent you lived with the longest over the last 12 years will provide his or her information along with the information of your step-parent if that parent remarried. But if you lived with each parent for the same amount of time in the past 12 months, then you should provide the information of the parent that provided for you the most financially, along with the information of your step-parent if that parent is remarried. If your parents are divorced but still living together, then you have to report their status as unmarried and both legal parents living together. In this case, you should include both parents' information on your FAFSA application. If your parents are separated but still live together, you have to report their status as married or remarried, not divorced or separated. In this case, you have to include both parents' information on your FAFSA application. What if your parents don't fill out your FAFSA application? If you are considered dependent for FAFSA and your parents for some reason don't fill out your FAFSA, then the outcome will depend on the following scenarios. If your parents don't sign your FAFSA because they are sick, incarcerated, or because you come from an abusive family environment, then you could qualify for a dependency override. But if they don't fill out your FAFSA application because they decline to do it, then you won't qualify for grants or free money. As a result, you will only qualify for unsubsidized student loans. The take-home message is this: parents end up hurting their dependent student when they refuse to sign their FAFSA applications. But what if you are a dependent student and your parents don't live in the United States? In this case, please contact the financial aid officer of your school to address your particular situation. Let's look at a common scenario. You are 24 and you left your parents' home to be independent of them since the day you turned 18. As a result, you take care of your own self, relying on your income. You even file your taxes independently. Does that make you independent for FAFSA? The answer is not necessarily. Just because you are independent of your parents' income and that your parents don't claim you in their income taxes doesn't make you an independent student. Dependency for federal student aid is not the same as dependency for federal income taxes. Now that we have discovered who is eligible for FAFSA and who is considered dependent or independent for FAFSA, let's talk about the application process and the things to expect. 1. You should first of all create a Federal Student Aid ID called FSA ID. 2. You should gather the required documentation needed to fill out the application. 3. You should fill out the FAFSA application. 4. You should sign and submit your FAFSA application. 5. You should follow up on your application. Let's talk about each of these steps. The first step and the most important step in filing for your FAFSA is to create your Federal Student Aid ID if you haven't done so yet. Your FSA ID is a username and a password that gives you access to your Federal Student Aid's online system. Your FSA ID is also used as your legal electronic signature once you complete your FAFSA application. In order to create your FSA ID, you will need your birthday, your social security number, your phone number, your physical address, and a valid email address. Please avoid to use the email address issued to you from your high school, as you could lose access of it. Once you gather this document, you can log on to www.fsaid.ed.gov to create your FSA ID. During the process of creating your FSA ID, you will have to select a challenge question from the provided drop-down menu. This challenging question will help you reset your password in the future if forgotten. Also, you might want to have your phone near to you because secure codes will be sent to your phone for confirmation during the process, and you will have to enter the code in the system within a limited time frame. Expect the process of creating your FSA ID to take about 10 to 20 minutes. And keep in mind, it must be done at once, meaning you cannot start it to finish it later. For those that are new to FAFSA, it is advised that you create your FSA ID before October 1st if you plan to submit your application early, because it takes about 3 days for the Social Security Administration to verify your identity before you use it to apply for FAFSA. If you are a dependent student, your parents or legal guardians must also create their own ID. But keep in mind that you and your parents cannot use the same email address because of a couple of reasons. Once you have created your FSA ID, make sure to keep it in a safe place for 2 reasons. 1, your FSA ID is your electronic signature. Anyone that has access to it can access and sign your FAFSA application. 2, if you forget your FSA ID, know that it takes more time to reset it than filling the entire FAFSA application. Also, the process can be very frustrating. Let's move on to the next step of the application process, the list of documents you must have handy when filling your FAFSA application. Once you have your FSA ID, you can now gather all the documents you will need to file your FAFSA. For the early birds, it is advised that you get these documents ready before October 1st if you want to get the most out of your financial aid. The document that both the student and the parent of a dependent student will need are your social security number. Please make sure the social security number you enter is correct, or else your application will be delayed. Your driver's license or state ID numbers. If you are not a U.S. citizen, you will also need to provide your alien registration number, also known as your A number. You will submit your federal tax returns, your W-2s, and your 1040 forms from the 2 years prior. For example, this coming October 1st, 2021 is the opening for the FAFSA application for the academic year 2022-2023. Therefore, you will submit your 2020 tax information. The good news is you can actually import your tax return during the FAFSA application using the IRS data retrieval tool provided to you. It is actually advised to use this IRS tool to save time and to avoid mistakes. But also, keep in mind that there are some circumstances that you don't want to use this tool. I will talk about it later. You will need to provide bank statements for all your checkings and savings accounts. Please keep in mind, all these documentations are provided by the student and the parent of the dependent student. If you have investment like stocks, bonds, 5 to 9 plans, and real estate, you must provide their records. Please do not provide records of your retirement account, your cash value life insurance, and the record of your home you currently live in. If you have any business with over 100 employees, you must provide your business assets. You must also provide records of your untaxed income, if any. Some examples are child support and veterans non-education benefits. You will also need to provide the Title IV institution code, which is the federal school codes for each college or university to which you are applying or have applied to. Your financial aid package will be sent to your school using these codes you provided in your application. To get this code, go to Google and search for FAFSA Federal School Codes. Now that you have your FSA ID and your documents ready, you can now fill out your FAFSA application. As I said earlier, the FAFSA application opens on October 1st at midnight Central Time. The application opening of this coming October 1st, 2021 is for the academic year 2022-2023. Again, this concerns high school seniors that will be graduating in May of 2022. It also concerns students that will still be in college next year. To file your FAFSA, go to www.fafsa.gov. You can also apply from your phone or tablet. In this case, you will have to download the app My Student Aid on your device. After your FAFSA website is up, use your FSA ID on the FAFSA login page to start your FAFSA application. The ideal situation would be to fill out your application with your parent present with you if you are a dependent student. But if your parent is not available when you're filling your application, make sure to create a safe key when prompted, and please make note of it. The safe key is a short temporary password you can give someone when it is time for them to work on your FAFSA. When you're done with your part of the application as a dependent student, make sure to save it before closing out of it. Then, using the safe key you will provide to your parent, have them access your partially completed FAFSA application to complete it. After everyone is done filling their part of the FAFSA application, you can now move to the next step, which is signing and submitting the FAFSA application. To do so, locate the Submit My FAFSA Now link at the bottom of the signature status page and make sure to click on it to submit it. Both the student and the parent of the dependent student will each sign the student's FAFSA application using their unique FSA ID as their legal electronic signatures. If you are a dependent student and your parent does not have a social security number and cannot get an FSA ID, then you will have to print out the application and have your parent manually sign it. In this case, you have to mail in the paper signature page to FAFSA. Keep in mind that when submitting your FAFSA application, you are not done until you see the confirmation page. Please read and save it for your records. The last step of the FAFSA application process is to follow up. After submitting your FAFSA application, it takes about 3 to 5 days to be processed. Once processed, make sure to keep an eye for your student aid report or your SAR. Your SAR is a summary of all your FAFSA answered questions. It will be emailed to you. Always review it for errors. If your FAFSA application was complete, the student aid report will include your expected family contribution, called EFC. The EFC is the amount of money the government calculates to determine what your family can contribute toward your college cost. If your FAFSA application was incomplete, the student aid report will not include your expected family contribution. In this case, your student aid report will tell you what you need to do in order to resolve the issues. Keep in mind, some scholarships you apply for might require you to send in your SAR. At this point, your student aid report is sent to the school you selected on your application. Keep an eye on additional information some schools you apply to might request you to provide. Once the Office of Federal Student Aid receives your student aid report, they will use the information you provided in your FAFSA to determine your financial need in terms of how much aid you will get and the types of aid you will receive. The amount of aid you will receive is determined by subtracting your expected family contribution from the cost of attendance of each given school. Once the schools you selected determine how much financial aid you are eligible for, they will nicely write it in the financial aid award letter. Most colleges send out financial aid award letters around the same time as admission offers letters, which is usually around late March or early April. In these letters, you can find the detailed cost of attending the college for an academic year, as well as the type of financial aid you are eligible to receive. I should mention here that the type of aid you will receive after filing your FAFSA is the need-based financial aid and usually consists of grants, among which the federal Pearl Grant, the SEOG grant, and the state grants. It also consists of federal work study, and it also consists of subsidized student loans. The letter might also include scholarships, which are considered as merit-based aids. Pearl Grant is the largest grant program offered by the Department of Education to undergraduate students. It is usually awarded to undergraduate students who show exceptional financial need, like low-income students. The Pearl Grant is the most desirable form of aid because the money you receive is free money that does not need to be repaid. To maximize your Pearl Grant, make sure you are one of the people submitting your FAFSA application on October 1st. Remember, they are awarded on a first-come, first-served basis. Here are a few things you should know about Pearl Grants. You cannot qualify for a Pearl Grant if you are working on a second bachelor's, if you are a graduate student, or if you are in a professional program. This simply means that if you have a bachelor's degree or an equivalent of a bachelor's degree, you cannot qualify for Pearl Grant regardless of where you got your degree from. That being said, if you had a bachelor's degree from abroad and would like to start all over in the United States in an undergraduate school, you will not be qualified for Pearl Grant if you declare to the school that you have a bachelor's degree. However, you will be eligible for Pearl Grant if you started your undergraduate education in one school and decide to transfer your courses to a different U.S. school before graduation. If you are awarded a federal work-study program, it means that you will get a part-time job on campus related to your coursework of study or public interest. As a return, the federal government will subsidize your wages using federal funds. You can use your earning as you want. A work study is similar to the Pearl Grant in the sense that you don't need to repay the money you receive. But the difference between the two lies in the fact that you have to work to earn money with a work study. I highly encourage students to sign up for work study. All you have to do is select it on your FAFSA application. Again, the earlier you submit your FAFSA application, the higher your chances of getting a work study. It is important to stress that as a student, you are responsible for securing your work study job. Just because your financial aid award says you qualify for work study doesn't mean that you are guaranteed a job. As for subsidized direct loan, we are talking of student loans, not free money. Unlike the Pearl Grant and work study that gives you free money, you must repay your student loans. There is no way around it, unless you die or some of it are forgiven. The reason why it is called subsidized loan is because the interest of the loan are paid by the government while you are in school, during the grace period, and during the periods of loan deferment. Because of these reasons, subsidized direct loan are by far the best loan out of all students' loans. The bad news is that as of July 1st, 2012, subsidized loan became available to undergraduate students only. But Unlike the direct subsidized loan that is given on the need base, these other loans are given on the non-need base. These loans include the direct unsubsidized loan, which starts accruing interest while the student is still in school. There is also the direct Grad Plus loan that are available for graduate and professional students. The direct parent loans are taken by parents to pay for the child's education. With this loan, the parent has to pass a credit check and is responsible for the repayment of the loan. Last, the Tech Grant is a grant that is given to those that plan to become a teacher in a high-need field in low-income area. If you decide to get a student loan, there are two things you will be required to do before you receive your student loan funds. You will have to complete an entrance counseling, which is a tool to ensure you understand your obligations to repay the loan. And you will have to sign a master promissory note agreeing to the terms of the loan. Also, if you are awarded a student loan in your financial package, please keep in mind that you are free to accept or decline it. But if you choose to decline a loan, be aware that you are declining it for the whole year. Also, declining a loan won't increase your chances of getting grants or scholarships. In the United States, financial aid is awarded on the need base or on a merit base. I mentioned earlier that grants, work study, and subsidized loan are given to students on the need base. These are considered need-based financial aid because the school takes into consideration your expected family contribution, which is determined from the information you and your parents provided in your FAFSA application. As for the merit-based financial aid, they consist mostly of scholarships and are usually awarded in recognition of the student's achievement. These achievements could be academic, athletic, artistic, and based on some leadership skills, just to name a few. Keep in mind that the amount of scholarships you get may lower the financial aid package you receive. To be considered for financial aid, some schools will automatically consider you for scholarships after you apply for admission, while other schools may have a separate application for scholarships with deadlines. Some requirements for scholarships are, but not limited to, essays, letters of recommendations, extracurricular activities, GPA, SAT score, and etc. The best way to complete your FAFSA is early and without mistakes. Here are a few tips on applying for FAFSA. 1. Always download and print out a FAFSA checklist. Having a list of what you need to fill the FAFSA makes a big difference. 2. Get all your FAFSA material ready by October 1st if you want to maximize your need-based financial aid. 3. Use the IRS data retriever tool to automatically import your tax return into the FAFSA application. This tool will simplify your application process, reduce errors, and lower your chances of being audited to verify the information on your FAFSA. 4. Fill the FAFSA form with your parent if you are dependent. 5. Know your deadlines. There are 3 FAFSA deadlines. The first deadline is the college deadline. The second deadline is the state's deadline. And the third deadline is the federal deadline. The reasons why you want to know your deadline is because you want to meet the deadlines in order to qualify for your college, your state, and your federal financial aid. If you can get your FAFSA submitted in October 1st, you will not only meet all the deadlines, but you will also get the most free money available. Now let's talk about the common mistakes and errors to avoid. Making mistakes on your FAFSA could delay your application and possibly make you lose out on some financial aid. Mistake number 1, leaving blank fields. Do not leave any field blank in your FAFSA application. Instead, enter 0 or not applicable. Too many blanks may lead to miscalculation of your expected family contribution and to an application rejection. Mistake number 2, not rounding your numeric values. Do not use commas and decimal point in numeric fields. Always round your numeric values to the nearest dollar. Mistake number 3, entering a wrong social security number or driver's license number. Always double check and triple check your social security number and your driver's license numbers. If possible, have someone else check them too. If your parent doesn't have a social security number, list it as 000000000. Do not make any number up or include a taxpayer identification number in lieu of your parent's social security number. Mistake number 4, bypassing your parent's information if you are a dependent student. Bypassing your parent's information will lead to an incomplete application. If possible, file your FAFSA together. Mistake number 5, not creating your FSA ID prior to filing your FAFSA. You need your FSA ID to file your FAFSA. In order to maximize your grant, have your FSA ID available by October 1st. Mistake number 6, entering the wrong federal income tax paid. Avoid entering the wrong federal income tax paid. Make sure to obtain your federal income paid tax amount from your tax return forms instead of your W-2s form. Mistake number 7, mistaking your total income and your adjusting gross income. This is a very common mistake. Your adjusted gross income is different from your total income. In most cases, your adjusted gross income is larger than your total income. Mistake number 8, reporting your joint income taxes when you recently divorced or separated. This is the one time it is not advised to use the IRS data retrieval tool, because doing so will pull out your joint taxes if you recently divorced or separated. The FAFSA application gives you the opportunity to indicate if there's been a change in your status or in your income. Mistake number 9, reporting your retirement account. Mistake number 10, reporting your home value. You shouldn't report the value of the house you currently live in. However, if you have real estate, you should report their value. Mistake number 11, reporting your business value when you have less than 100 employees. This is another common mistake. You should only report your business value if you have more than 100 employees. Mistake number 12, reporting your student's 529 plan as your child's asset. If you created a 529 account for your child, report it as your asset. Likewise, if your child has a substantial amount of money in his account, have your child move that money to your account prior to filling out the FAFSA. Here's the reason. Assets under the child's name will count more toward the expected family contribution than assets under the parent's account. Mistake number 13, leaving the drug-related offenses question blank. Never leave the questions about drug-related offenses blank. If you are unsure about something, please contact your financial aid office. A conviction doesn't necessarily mean you will be disqualified from receiving aid. Mistake number 14, not adding all your colleges on your FAFSA application. On your FAFSA application, you can list up to 10 institutions. If you want to delete or add a school after you have submitted your FAFSA, allow 3 days for your application to be processed. Then you can log back in your application to do the desired changes. Mistake number 15, filing your FAFSA late. Always know your deadlines and try as much as you can to file your FAFSA early to get the most money. Mistake number 16, using a different name. Make sure your name is listed on your FAFSA application as it appears on your Social Security card. Do not include other variations of your name. Mistake number 17, forgetting to sign your FAFSA application. Do not forget to sign and date your FAFSA application. Your FSA ID is your electronic signature. Remind your parent to sign your application as well. Mistake number 18, giving up on submitting your FAFSA application early on. Most of the time, you will encounter a glitch when submitting your FAFSA application on the first few days. The reason? There are a lot of people trying to submit their application early on as well. Be patient and remember, the early birds get the worm. Mistake number 19, not filing a FAFSA application. In order to be considered for financial aid, you must submit a FAFSA application. Moreover, if you consider yourself as a high earner, it won't hurt to still file for your student application. Remember, your child can still receive financial aid on the merit base. Mistake number 20, not appealing your financial letter. A lot of people don't know they can appeal their financial letters. As a matter of fact, most schools reserve some money for people that appeal their financial letters. You must have a good reason to appeal, especially if you know the value your student will be bringing to the school. Mistake number 21, failing to register yourself with selective service. If you are a male aged 18 to 26, you must register yourself with selective service. Failure to register yourself would make you ineligible for federal student aid. Mistake number 22, not finding out if your college requires you to submit a college scholarship service profile, also known as your CSS profile. Your CSS profile contains supplemental financial aid forms that some colleges require in order to determine the amount of institutional grants and scholarships to offer. To know if your school requires a CSS profile, Google college that requires CSS profile. If your college does require a CSS profile, keep in mind the application for the CSS profile also starts on October 1st. Also, be aware that the CSS profile is much detailed than the FAFSA application and will take a longer time to complete it. Moreover, unlike the FAFSA application that is free, the CSS profile application is not free. To access the CSS profile application, go to cssprofile.collegeboard.org. Teasers, I hope you have enjoyed this video. If this video has been of any value to you, please share it for other parents to benefit from it as well. If you would like to watch more of my videos, subscribe and smash that notification bell. If you have any questions concerning today's video, please write it in the comment below. You can also contact your school's financial aid office or visit the FAFSA website. Thank you for watching and see you in the next video.